everybody. Welcome, welcome. Hey, folks, as you come in, as is tradition with online environments, feel free to put in the chat where you're joining us from. I am here in Madison, Wisconsin, by the way. And yeah, feel free to fill up the chat. Let us know where you are. And we are going to be kicking off our session in about 30 seconds. I want to make sure we've got plenty of folks ready to join us. If anybody comes in late, don't worry. We will make sure the recording is available for folks who registered. Who am I? Why am I talking to you? I am Emily Mabie. My pronouns are she, her. I work at Zapier. I am a learning designer at Zapier, and I'm also just a power user of our products. I'm a big fan of all of Zapier's products, including agents and chatbots, and I work within the people team. So today, you're going to be partnering with me to build your first agents and chatbots as people too. Here's our agenda. We're going to start off by visiting some definitions, getting back to basics. What is AI automation? We'll share out a real quick use case example, and then we're going to dive right into getting our hands dirty. And of course, there will be time for Q&A. We will make sure to answer questions at the end. One thing that I do want to shout out, we had one of these workshops a month ago, and I know some of you are back with us again. The first 5 minutes are going to feel familiar to you if you were here last time, but the rest, we're going to build a new use case in agents. We're going to visit chatbots, which we didn't do last month. So stick around if you were here last time. Don't leave yet. All right, starting out, I want to talk for just a minute about the spectrum of AI automation. So there's this idea that with Zapier, you might be familiar with automation, right? You can build a workflow. If we look all the way on the left, a deterministic workflow. It's a traditional Zap, a workflow where triggers and actions follow a predictable path. You could, for instance, take in a new lead that comes in, send a text, and add it to your CRM. That will run the same way every single time. But if we look all the way on the right-hand side, the purple side, towards inference, all the way at that other end, you have Zapier agents. Agents are fully AI. They combine natural language instructions and knowledge sources and tools to autonomously complete really complex tasks. Now, there is something for every job that you can come up with. There's stuff right in between. Most organizations need solutions across the whole spectrum, and Zapier has a powerful set of tools that make that possible. But today, you might have noticed, we're going to be focusing on agents. And why is that? Well, on the far left under determinism, we have Zaps. They run the same way every time, which makes them a great option to hand off tasks that are consistent. Like we always want to summarize our meetings the same way, categorize tickets, route leads. But on the opposite side, agents, which are more autonomous, you can give them a prompt and give them access to those tools, and the agent will decide how to actually accomplish the goal for you. You can also have it do things like search the web and give it access to live business data to query or a specific website to check. And those are things that you can't necessarily do in a workflow. Because agents are non-deterministic, that means that they'll run a little bit differently each time, which makes them really great for work that involves things like thinking or logic, like writing reports or generating content or researching your competitors. And we're really going to lean into those features today. If I boil it down and answer the question of what is an AI agent? Simply put, it's software that can perceive its environment so it can make decisions and take actions to achieve goals. And it doesn't need humans to intervene once we get it going. Now, we can have humans in the loop, but it doesn't need them. Zapier's agents product is an example of an AI agent builder. You might know other ones. I think Zapier's is the best. I'm biased because I work here, but I think it's the best because it's so simple to set up. With Zapier, you can create as many agents as you want, and you just need plain natural language. You do not have to be an engineer to set them up. The other really great thing about Zapier agents that you'll see here in a minute when we build ours together is they connect over 8,000 apps that you're already using. So like I'm already in Slack. I'm already writing things down in Google Docs. I can use an agent to connect those processes and get work to kind of do itself behind the scenes. Let's take a look at an example of connecting AI with real apps to solve real people problems. My example here is about to look overwhelming, but don't worry, we'll step through it. Here's a screen with a lot of information on it. This is an example of a Zapier agent that's an actual HR use case. And if you were with us for the last workshop, you've seen it before. This is an agent that builds a custom welcome gift for every new hire that responds by accepting an offer email. They tell us a little bit about themselves, and the agent uses human language and a few tools, in this case, Gmail and surfing the web, to act as an autonomous teammate. But how do we actually build it? It's really quite simple. The first thing you do when you're building an agent is you figure out your trigger. And to do that, you fill in the blanks in a two-part sentence. When blank happens, then blank. That first blank is always your trigger in an agent. So in this case, when an email comes in that contains "so excited to welcome you" in the subject line, right? That's a reply to an acceptance email. Then it's time to figure out our actions. What is the agent going to do once it's activated? So in this case, when that happens, then I want you to search BoxFox for all sorts of items that relate to the email writer's preferences. I want you to make sure when you total them together, it's less than $200. Once you're done, I want you to write a special note for the new hire about why we picked out these gift items for them. But all this is possible because we add in tools. So in this case, one of the tools was visiting a website. Another tool is I want it to then send me a Slack message and let me know like the gift box is ready to go out. You might notice we don't have any ChatGPT steps in here, and that's because we don't need to add them. Agents themselves use large language models as their foundation, so we don't have to have it go to ChatGPT. Think of it as ChatGPT, but with all sorts of tools included. All right, it's time. I'm going to stop talking at you and actually build with you now. We are going to start building a Zapier agent. But I want to advise you, if you are someone who works on two monitors, now is a really good time to set up one window that can see me and our video stream and what we're working on, and then the other window to do your actual building in Zapier agents. If you're on one screen, that is totally fine. You might want to do a side-by-side view, but I've heard it's really helpful for people to set that up. Now, if you're somebody who was with us before, you might remember that last time our use case was that we all faced the challenge of trying to maintain a record of our performance across the year so that when we get to performance reviews, we have a lot of evidence to point to. That was focused on us as ICs, our individual contributors. Today, we're going to pivot a little bit. We're going to think more about systems. Today, we're going to focus on managers giving impactful and continuous feedback to their teams. Since a ton of the people on the call are HR leaders, this should resonate. That's what we're going to be building today. I'm going to ask my fantastic co-pilots here to drop in a link in the chat to Zapier agents. I'm going to navigate there myself. Your agent screen is not going to look this full. I have built, I'm not exaggerating, probably about 100 Zapier agents. Yours is unlikely to be full of agents, but it will have a big purple button up in the corner right hand of the screen that says New Agent. That is what we're going to click. Thank you so much, Leah, for dropping the link in the chat. We are going to click that button. And you'll see on my screen, I get a co-pilot popping up, but we're not going to use it today. I'm going to start from scratch so that we can really dig into the components of agents and build it together. So Our agent today has a specific problem statement. It's that managers need to make sure they're giving good and consistent feedback. So I'm going to name this Managers Feedback Monitor and Coach. And I started off our time together with a when-then statement. This is how we're going to think about building our agent. When something happens, then something else happens. I'm thinking about my workflow and how I work. And what I'd really like to see is not like minute by minute or day by day how I'm doing, but I'd like a snapshot week by week. I want to know every week, how am I doing giving my direct reports feedback? And where am I missing opportunities to make sure everybody on my team knows whether they're meeting expectations or not? So when I think about that trigger, I want to know, week after week. What I think I want here is schedule by Zapier. That's a tool that lets me choose how often this agent will get triggered. And in this case, I want it to trigger every single week. So I'm going to click schedule by Zapier. I get a bunch of choices. I can really customize this. I want to find every week. You could think about your own work habits and how often you'd like this agent to run. I also know that it's really helpful for me to get a heads up on this on Fridays in the morning, because then I have the whole Friday workday ahead of me, where if I've missed some opportunities to give some feedback this week, I can jump on it before the weekend comes and nobody's left hanging. So I'm going to choose schedule by Zapier every week on Fridays at 8 a.m. And I'm going to save that trigger. Let's go back to our when then statement for a second. When Fridays at 8 a.m. roll around, then what do I want to have happen? Well, here's the goal. I'm actually going to write this out. My objective is I want to provide, spelling in front of a crowd is hard. I want to provide me, Emily, with a summary of the feedback that I've given to my direct reports. And I want it to look in the main work environment I use to give feedback, and that's Slack. So let's have it by analyzing the week's Slack activity. So here's my objective. When Friday at 8 a.m. rolls around, then I want my agent to provide me with a summary of feedback I've given my direct reports by looking at the whole week's activity in Slack. Now, if you haven't prompted AI before, here's a little tip. AI works super well with ordered lists, like a numbered list. Number 1, do this. Number 2, do this. So we're going to give it not just this like really broad objective, we're also going to give it instructions to execute one step at a time. So I'm going to write instructions for you to execute. And for step 1, I want to think about like, what would a robot need to do, or even a colleague, right? Think of your agent like a coworker. It's their first week and you're giving them instructions. Let's really break this down. The first thing I want it to do is to look back through my Slack conversations and figure out where I've sent my direct reports feedback this week, but it also needs to know who they are so it can figure out like who's missing. Where am I missing opportunities to give feedback? So let's give it a few pieces of information. First, I'm going to type out search for and retrieve all Slack messages I sent to my direct reports this week that contain feedback for them. Okay. But it doesn't know who they are. So now I have to tell it. I refer to my direct reports as Kylie, Sean, and Sanjay in Slack. So I'm going to be honest, sometimes I don't use the at tag, so I'm just going to add that in. Sometimes I don't tag them. If you always use the at tag, you do you. And then if I were to run this agent right now, what would happen is it would read these instructions, but it would have no ability to go into Slack and look at messages, because one of the wonderful things about agents is they can only access tools you give them access to. They have these guardrails, so it can't just go rogue and start poking around in all of my apps. I have to add that tool in so that it can access my Slack messages. So first thing I'm going to need to do in order to give it access to Slack messages is I'm going to need to click this button that says Add Tools. That will open a drop-down. I can see a few options right away. One is I can visit a specific website. That's really helpful if I want it to be checking help documentation somewhere. I can have it search the entire internet. What I want is to grab Slack as my app. So I'm going to click Add Tools. You can see some of our most popular apps are right here at the top without even searching. If I was looking for an app that I didn't see, I could use the search bar, but I see Slack right here. So I will touch that, grab Slack. And now I see a whole bunch of actions that I can choose for my agent to take. It can do things like find data. It can take action on my behalf, like sending a message. Today, for our use case, I'm asking it to look through Slack and find where I've given feedback to my direct reports. So I'm going to use find message. That uses Slack's search feature to find messages that I've written. So I'm going to go ahead and click find message. And now if I read my agent again, so far it says, when Friday at 8 a.m. rolls around, then your objective is to provide Emily with a summary of feedback she's given her direct reports by analyzing the week's Slack activity. And to do that, step 1 is search for all the Slack messages I've sent to my direct reports, Kylie, Sean, and Sanjay in Slack. And I've got the tool here to let it do that. Now, let's open up the tool by clicking the little gear icon so we can take a look at what our agent is going to do. Our agent is going to specify the search query, so it's going to search however it needs to find this information. I'm also letting my agent choose how to sort those returns. If I wanted to, I could set a specific value here and tell it only look at the strongest matches or only look at matches from this date range. But here, I'm going to let my agent choose because it does a pretty good job searching Slack for what I'm looking for. But I am going to narrow it down just a little bit so it doesn't waste a ton of time. What I'm going to tell it is we mostly work in these channels. And I've got 2 channels that I want to give it. I want to tell it to mostly pay attention to these 2 channels, which I set up just for this demo so that you won't accidentally see any private Slack information. But I'll let it know, please also check DMs I've sent, because sometimes feedback isn't in a channel. Sometimes it's in a direct message. All right. Our agent, if I run it right now, is going to be able to search Slack to find messages. But importantly, I asked it to tell me a summary of feedback. So it's going to coach me to make sure I'm not missing any direct reports. It's also going to log a record of feedback over time. We're going to use that in a minute when we build our chatbot. So in order to do those things, I need to add in some more instructions and tools. For step 2, let's have it summarize the feedback in a Google Doc so that I have a long-running record of all the feedback I've given my direct reports. That's going to be really valuable to me as a manager when it's performance review time. I won't have to go searching for those again. So I'm going to tell it, write a summary of feedback in this Google Doc so that I have a running record of how I'm doing with giving feedback week over week. And please label it by direct report. And always include a link to the Slack feedback. That way during performance review season, if I'm like, I don't remember giving that feedback, I can just click a link and see it. Now, I've given it the instruction, but once again, it can't execute on this without the tool. There's that guardrail again. So let's go ahead and add in our tool. I'm going to use Google Docs for this. And what I've done is I've got a document started here of feedback I've given as a manager, but I would like to add to it. So I'm going to have it add to that Google Doc. Let's find it. In my tools, I'm choosing Google Docs. And instead of finding data, this time I want it to take action. I want it to add on to this document. So sometimes you might hear that called appending. So we're going to use this very first action here, append text to an existing document. I want it to add my week by week summary to this document. I'm going to use the little gear again next to the tool, the Google Doc tool. When I click that, it lets me make some selections. I'm going to go find the document where I want this text to be added. So I'm going to choose set a specific value for this field. And it's going to show me all of these Google Docs in my folder. I'm going to choose feedback from me as a manager because that's the Google Doc I showed you a moment ago. And I'm going to let the agent pick everything else. I don't want to tell it specifically what to add. I want it to do the thinking. So now, reading the agent again. When Friday at 8 a.m. rolls around, please provide me with a summary of feedback I've given to my direct reports by analyzing Slack. To do that, first, search Slack and find the messages. Then, write a summary of feedback in this Google Doc so I have a running record. And finally, I want it to coach me. I want it to notice, am I inadvertently leaving someone out? We're all people leaders, right? We've all seen the research. We know that there are certain employees who long for more feedback than they're getting, employees who tend to be left out of regular feedback cadences, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to tell it, if I haven't given well-constructed feedback to a direct report this week, for example, let's say example, like if I missed someone, send me a DM to let me know. In order for it to send me a DM, surprise, surprise, we have to give it access. This might feel a little confusing because you might be thinking, we already gave it Slack access. It's finding messages. But again, we boxed it in. We gave it access to one action, looking for the messages. Now we're going to give it access to sending us a message. This is a benefit, right? We're never going to have our agent acting in a way that we didn't anticipate because we're not going to give it the tools to do that. So now we're going to let it send a message. I'm going to insert Slack again. And this time, I'm going to look for the action send direct message. And the person I want to get the direct message is me, Emily Mabie. So when I look for the username, I'm going to set the value to be me. And we've got a lot of people at Zapier in our Slack workspace, so it takes just a second to load them all. If you type your name in, you don't see yourself, give yourself just a second to see if it loads. I want it to send me the Slack message, but the only other field that I'm going to update is I want it to send this as a robot. I don't want it to appear as though I'm sending myself this message. The notification comes through clearer if it appears to come from a bot. So the two areas that I changed were my username. I do want this to come from a bot. And then I'll hit save. Okay, final read through. Fridays at 8 a.m. I want to receive a summary of all the feedback I've given my direct reports this week. I want it to search Slack to do that, summarize the feedback in my Google Doc so I have it for my performance review period, and I want to get a DM if I haven't given someone feedback yet. Let's click preview, this purple button, and run our agent to test it. Let's see how it does. I'm going to go ahead and click test agent. The first thing that will happen is it's going to pretend it's been triggered on Friday at 8 a.m., even though for me it's Wednesday at 1:30. And then one of the wonderful things about agents is they talk to you like a person. It doesn't look like computer code, so it's telling me what it's doing each step of the way. It's letting me know, first of all, it's analyzing feedback to my direct reports by searching for messages that I sent to these folks. I can use a little drop down and I can see where it's visiting each time. I can see what channels it's going to. And I'm going to show you as it's processing here that I've left feedback for direct reports in a few channels. Here's one in the HR test demo. Here's one in the test L&D workspace for Sanjay. And so I'm going to work with my agent to see if it can pick up on those examples. Let's go back to our agent and see if we need to do any troubleshooting. All right, so right off the bat, it's saying based on my results, I didn't find any Slack messages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to my agent here to troubleshoot. Once again, it's just like talking to a coworker. It's not like doing coding and programming where we have to know any special kind of syntax. We can talk right to it and see why it's having some trouble. So I'm going to say, I did leave feedback in Slack for a few direct reports, but I didn't use their @ tags. Can you look again in those channels? Let me know if I need to update your prompt. Troubleshooting is so easy with the agent because it's just like talking. So we'll see how it does. Ooh, and this time it logged some feedback too. It said, okay, when searching channels for messages about direct reports, search more broadly, don't require @ tags. Okay, great. So it's giving itself some feedback. It's looking again. Oh, look at that. All right, so I'm dropping it down just to kind of see behind the scenes, and it found at least one of the messages I wrote. Fantastic. Let's collapse that back up so that we can see it thinking. All right, it said, great, found feedback for Sanjay. Let me search to find other feedback you have sent this week. Okay, great. Now it's going to document these in Google. Fantastic. So now we see it working on adding this text to our document. You might be thinking, Emily, I thought you said this was all going to run without me. You're having to click these buttons a lot. Rest assured, this is only asking for my approval because we're testing it. Once we turn it on, it'll run without us. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look. Is there anything else I want to troubleshoot? I noticed that, okay, so it found Sanjay's feedback, which was in the L&D workspace, but it's still missing one. It's missing the one for Kylie. So I'm going to talk to it a little bit more, see if we can troubleshoot. It looks like you missed some feedback in the HR demo channel. Can you try and be a bit more broad? We're never locked in. We can always iterate and troubleshoot. And then once we've got it working exactly the way we want and turn it on, it's going to take so much off of our plates. You can see it retrieved or it logged that feedback too. Fantastic. All right, let's give it just a minute. Thinking back to how we started this session, looking at that continuum from workflows that run the same way every time to agents that are using logic and able to inference, you can see that it's trying different approaches. I can highlight it here. I'm trying a different approach. Let me try searching without a channel restriction. It's doing those things. And if we were in a workflow, we wouldn't have those sort of routing and logic steps taking place that an agent can do. I'm going to pause for just a second here, and I'm going to, oh, excellent. Okay, let me document the feedback and send you a notification about missing feedback from the HR test demo. All right, let me show you what it looks like if, let's say, I am done troubleshooting and I really love this output. I'm going to hit approve. We'll skip ahead a little bit because I want to make sure to show you one more feature that we'll build. And it's going to test out adding text to the document. In this case, I didn't give it any feedback about formatting, so it's probably going to look a little bit messy. Awesome. Here it is. Here's my summary of the week with that note it found for Sanjay. Let's go back to the agent for a second. And it's asking for one more piece of permission. It's asking, is it okay to send you a DM in Slack? Again, we're asking permission only because we're testing. Let's go ahead and approve that so it can send me the DM coaching me on how my feedback is going this week. All right, let's see if it came through. Haha, I've got it. So here we go. It says, hi, Emily, I've completed your feedback summary. You have some gaps that have been identified. And then that enables me as a manager to see where I might be missing opportunities to give some feedback. Now, we could navigate away from this, but I've got bad news. Our agent wouldn't run. And that's because we didn't turn it on. It's really important to click this little gray toggle and turn our agent on so that it runs every week. If we don't do that, nothing is going to happen. And finally, we can go and look at how our agent has been running by moving away from the configure tab and over to the activity tab. The activity tab will show you every single time your agent has been triggered. You can open those runs up and talk to them just like you did when you were setting up your agent. Tell me what could be improved here. And your agent is going to talk to you about that particular run. So if you've got like dozens and dozens of runs, that can be really helpful to dial in on one specific time when your agent ran. I'm going to navigate away from agents here for just a second because we've got just enough time to take a look at one more thing. We've got this feedback document, right? Here it is. It's got feedback that I've given to each of my direct reports over time. You can imagine that by the time impact reviews or performance reviews came around, this would be full of dozens, if not hundreds of examples of feedback that I've given my direct reports, which is great. We're HR leaders at our company. We've got hundreds and hundreds of people all doing performance reviews at the same time. But how can we make sure that managers are translating the feedback they've been getting into succinct, evidence-based, actionable performance reviews? One way that we can do that is with chatbots. At Zapier, we actually have 56 chatbots, one for every role family at Zapier and every role type, that coach individuals through how to have an effective performance review. We're going to set one up in minutes right now. So keep this document in mind, but we're going to head over to Zapier Chatbots, the fantastic Leah, if you don't mind dropping the chatbots link in the chat. Chatbots are exactly what they sound like. They're AI-backed chatbots that allow us to unite like knowledge sources and use very specific prompting to get results that we want. You can set them up in minutes. We've got the create button on the left or right-hand side. On my right-hand side, it's purple. I'm going to click create, and we are going to set up a super simple chatbot to go ahead and help managers make the most of performance reviews. Let me see if I can load this here. Hmm. Okay, there we go. I'm going to name this Manager Performance Review Chatbot. Let's keep it simple. And just like with our agent, we have the space to configure it on the left, and then we've got a testing space on the right called Preview. Now, what I want to do is for now, I'm going to just delete the directive because I want to plug in a few pieces of information. The first thing I want to do is I want to tell it about itself. So I'm going to say, you are an expert at performance, enablement, and feedback. Your role is to guide managers through translating evidence and feedback across the performance review period into a high impact and succinct performance review. All right. Who can hope for more than that for managers during performance reviews? We want them to be evidence-based. We want them to be relying on their historical data, not recency bias, and we want to make sure that the review they write isn't just high impact, it's also succinct, so it's digestible. I also happen to have the 3 questions that managers use at Zapier to give their impact review. So there are 3 questions that I want the bot to guide us through. I'm going to paste them here. You would add your 3 questions or however many questions you want to give it. But in this case, I'm going to tell the bot steps to follow. Guide the user 1 question at a time through answering the performance review questions about each of their direct reports. Be sure to ask follow-up questions as needed and help them format their answers to each question succinctly. And then I'm going to just label these, let's call it question 1 and question 2, just to help the bot. And here's where we're going to be humans for a second. We're going to think critically like humans do. I'm comfortable with having the bot help people organize their thoughts, help people summarize, but I am not comfortable with the bot assessing whether an employee is like showing strong impact or exceptional impact. That is the work of a manager. So I'm actually going to tell it, then guide the manager to choose from one of the 3 ratings, but do not assess the rating yourself. This is the job of a manager. Okay. And then I'm going to let it know the impact ratings are these 3. Now, if I test this right now, if I save these changes and I test it, it's going to do a great job walking me through these questions. I'll actually I'm just going to copy this whole document. Copy. I'm going to go back to the chatbot. I'm going to paste in, I'm reviewing Sanjay. Here's the data. And I'm going to paste that whole hideous document. You can see it all in there. And the bot's going to help me by reflecting, use the data I shared. But what it's not going to do, so here it is, it's pulling out the examples of from the feedback I've given Sanjay over the last few weeks. It's pulling out specific examples to help me answer question 1, which is like examples of impact in the career and role. What it's not doing, though, is measuring against the competencies we use at Zapier. I haven't given it access to that. And I can up-level this chatbot by giving it access to our role-specific competencies that we use here at the company so that it's guiding managers through like, great, you gave me evidence, but you haven't given me evidence of this particular behavior or this one. So I'm going to go on the left-hand side. I've got instructions, knowledge, logic. I've got all of these options. I'm going to head over to knowledge. We can sync all sorts of knowledge here. If we've got a company website that lists our values, we could go ahead and sync that. We could sync or update specific files or connect a table. In this case, our competencies are in a Google Doc. So I'm just going to connect this Google Doc to my chatbot as a knowledge source. I'm going to choose Google Doc. I've got tons and tons of folks to choose from here in accounts. I got to find me real quick. Oh, I can search. There we go. And my Google Doc is, oops. Okay. Oh, impact review questions. Nope, impact behaviors. All right. And if I do that, the chatbot is going to be able to, you can see it's loading, processing the knowledge source. The chatbot is going to be able to use that knowledge source as its foundation for answering questions that come in through the chat. So even if a manager were to open this chatbot and ask it, you know, like, hey, I'm not doing a performance review right now, but I'd love some language on how to coach around this particular competency, it's going to have access to that knowledge source and can kind of go back and use it again and again. So let's head back for just a minute to our instructions. We've set this chatbot up with a few features. We've given it its role, specific steps to follow. We are in the process of giving it a knowledge source, and we can test it immediately. But the most important thing here about chatbots is our agent was for us, right? It's coaching one particular manager. It's got access to my Slack, and it's messaging me and looking at my Google Docs. This chatbot, we can share with the whole company. I mentioned Zapier has 56 chatbots the whole company uses. In our last performance cycle, we had over 800 conversations happening with those chatbots. And the way that we do that is there's a share button, and I can grab the link and share it with absolutely anyone. I can, of course, embed it in websites too, but you can launch a public-facing chatbot. I think I did that in 10 minutes. So you can get this put together, start enabling folks to have better, stronger feedback in less than half an hour and share it out wherever you need to. This public link right here, anybody can view. I'm going to pause there for just a second because I'm eyeing the time and we've got only 14 minutes left, and it's really important to me that we have time for Q&A. We've covered two topics today. One is we took a look at agents. The other one is we took a look at chatbots. If you want to contrast those for yourselves right now, here's a quick slide reiterating that AI teammates are our agents and user-facing conversation bots are our chatbots. I would love to know what questions we've got. And Leah, if I stop sharing my screen, can you go ahead and surface some of them for us?
Hey. All right. We have a ton of fun questions in here, so let's get into it. All right. First question is, oh, let me pop it up here. Do you need to include the word feedback in Slacks? Oh, wait, it ran away.
Oh gosh, sorry. That was on me.
How does the agent know what is considering feedback or not?
I love this question. So I've got this agent running, like this is one that I built in front of you for pretend, but I actually use it in my day-to-day. And I don't have the word feedback in the Slack messages I'm getting or giving. What it does is it's really successful if you give it a few places to look. So I think in the one I really have running, I've given it the 20 Slack channels I use the most often. And then by looking there, it'll find like, oh, here are stakeholders you're working with. I'll look in those DMs. Um, and it will look at tone. So because it can reason, and I do that in quotes because it's an algorithm, it can look at like this sounds like feedback versus this doesn't. And it's been very good at excluding, like, for instance, if I send Leah like a funny GIF, that doesn't get included because it doesn't sound like feedback to the algorithm. Really good question.
So I know at at Zapier, our Slack is very, very public. Does this work within private channels that you're in?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, it is able to look in those and DMs. Um, if you want to stop it. So if you're a person who's right now like, what is wrong with you? Why would you want it to do that? There are lots of times where you might want to box it in more. And in the agent, when we clicked the gear icon next to each tool we were inserting, you could choose specific places to force it to look and not give it access to let agent choose for you if you wanted to box it in. But yes, it can.
Nice. Alrighty. Next one. How is privacy of Slack conversations handled when they're being processed by an AI agent?
Really great question. Oh, excuse me. So with any of the questions that come in, excuse me, that are about privacy or legality, first thing I always say, and I know people might feel like this is dismissive, but it's really important that you check with your legal team. So for instance, like when I am having a conversation in a chat bot, there might be a header on a chat bot that says like, just so you know, like these conversations are stored in this place or this channel. AI agents are powered by different large language models. You're going to want to talk to your legal team about what enterprise level agreements you have between different providers and models so that you know what you can and can't process with an agent or an AI step in a workflow or a chatbot. Every company is going to have different policies, and it's really important to check with yours. That being said, the agent that I build that reads like through my feedback in my Slack and then puts it somewhere, I'm the only person I've given access to that agent. So like even though Leah also builds agents, Leah cannot go see that agent's work. She can't like go see the information it's sending me. All of that is happening in my private Google Doc, my private Slack DMs, and those are not getting externalized anywhere to anybody else at Zapier. But again, with your legal team.
Always a best bet. Alrighty. Next one. Jumping ahead, would we be able to do this with like a live Zoom meeting as well, so it captures all the written and verbal feedback?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. But before I answer this great question, even more important one in the chat, someone asked me how Toby is doing, my sweet baby dog, who had surgery last week and got 6 teeth pulled, and then he was high as a kite. And he is doing great. He had like 3 days of being a zombie, and then it was like nothing ever happened to him, and he's completely back to normal. I so wish that humans were like that. Uh, Sorry for the aside. This
Love.
question though, I love because a lot of us are facing like being tool strapped, right? Like we know we have Zoom, we're all on Zoom right now. Zoom gives me a transcript. I want to get that transcript, but I feel like the only options are to go buy another tool, which is like Granola or Fellow or any of the other great tools that help us capture the conversations in Zoom and then use them in our workflows and with AI. Great news is, as long as you have access to the recording, the transcript data from Zoom, you can actually use that in an agent or a workflow. I have a workflow that the trigger, and the same for an agent could be whenever there's a new Zoom transcript in your account, then process the transcript, summarize it, send it to a Slack channel, tag all the participants. That's totally doable. What is not going to be possible is you're not going to be able to use to have an agent like listening live to your Zoom and gleaning what's being discussed in the meeting. It needs to wait until the transcript has processed and the recording is processed. So just be aware it's not a live transcription service. So if that's what you're looking for, that will not work.
Alrighty. Going down the line. All right. So when you say a public-facing chatbot, does that mean anyone on the internet can view? Is there a way to set viewable by a specific URL domain from a company, but like an internal or external share?
Yes, 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 absolutely. So that link that I was like sharing out was a fully public URL. Let me actually here. I'm gonna share my screen for one more second. Sorry, everybody. Hope you love screen share because it's happening again. Okay, whee, here we go. Back in the chat bot. If I go back to sharing it, you can see that I have my company's domain here, and I can choose that like people at Zapier have access. Public link is a separate tab. I can make sure that only like people I want seeing this can see it. And the other thing I want to show you, just to be a huge nerd for a second, here are Zapier's actual chatbots that we use for our performance reviews. So I mentioned we have 56. If I scroll, you will see them. They're divided by what your job is at the company. This whole thing where all the chatbots live is called an interface. And that's another Zapier product. You just like drop chatbots into it and they can all live in one screen. This is another thing. We can lock this down and make sure only people who can log in with a Zapier email address can have access. And then like only people who can log in with a Zapier email address can use this particular impact review bot. The other reason it's nice to put your chatbots in an interface is you can see here, I added a bunch of context at the top, like here are links to resources. Here's information about where your data gets stored if you work at Zapier. And so using an interface to lock down access can be really effective and it can enrich your chatbot. Okay, I'm gonna stop screen sharing.
Alrighty. Next one is, can an agent crawl or get data from from external links?
Yes. If anybody missed the very beginning of the call, we gave an example of an agent, a real agent that really works, which is telling it like, hey, put together a gift box by looking for affordable gifts on these websites. And when the stock changes on those websites every day, it's using the live web. So it is able to revisit websites. You can box it in by giving it specific websites to look at. You can make it super general and be like, read my whole calendar, research every domain for a meeting I have today, and then tell me everything you think I should know about related news and current events for those businesses. Like it can look at the whole web. So that is one of the main superpowers of agents is that unlike a workflow, you can give it free reign to search the web and look at data related to external links for sure.
Alrighty. I love this next question. Can I set this agent for my manager so he can receive feedback, for example, instead of me?
Yes, absolutely. My manager has built one. I am notoriously bad at remembering when public holidays are because I work at a global company and we all observe different holidays. I'm like still after 3 years, still not used to remembering to like take 4th of July off. And my manager has one that just DMs me and is like, Emily, there's another public holiday coming. Did you do it? And I have set these up for other people as well. Like I know I've built one and then passed it off to the marketing team. You can absolutely, you can both share agents, you can build one and share it so people can modify them themselves, or you can build it where the recipient of the direct message, instead of being you, it could be anyone, or it could be a group of people.
Right, we're slowly coming up to the end of the event, so I'm going to squeeze in one more here. So it's a fun one. What are your favorite agents you've built so far? Which are the most useful? Can you give us your top three?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to be the worst guy ever and screen share again for the last minute here. Okay. So we've got, here are my real agents. You're going to see behind the scenes here. Oh my gosh. And this is such a mess. I apologize. Okay. So one of them that is absolutely essential to me right now is I work with so many wonderful people. They write LinkedIn posts and then they want me to like see it. And I want to reshare those posts often. I'm like, man, those are great. But I also don't want to be annoying. So I want to schedule them. I have one agent where when I react with an emoji like LinkedIn to do, it will then read my calendar, look at where I have other LinkedIn posts scheduled, decide if it's a good tone break, like, oh, you did one that was Zapier branded today. Tomorrow you have a personal one. So on Thursday, let's do this one. And then it will schedule time for me to go write that post and post it, which is super handy. Number two, another one that's super handy for me is my email maintenance system. I've got an agent that reads emails for sales pitches because I'm really bad at succinctly and politely saying no to sales pitches. And it drafts a response for me for saying no politely. And if it's something I'd actually be interested in, I've given it some criteria. It'll read my calendar for free time and suggest some meeting times between me and that person. And then the final one, the one that I use the most often is, all right, it is the Good Morning Digest. It reads through all of the work that I have done since 24 hours before, and then it sends me a message that's like, hey, here's everything you got done yesterday. Here's top priorities for today. Here are blockers that don't look like they got resolved overnight while you were offline. And here's something really cool, like a win you had yesterday or an impact you made to start the day off on a positive note. And it links to all of those. So I get them every day. It helps me get dug back in because I'm a remote employee and my environment looks different every morning.
Yeah, I'm with Julie on this one. I think to share my favorite zaps are the ones that Emily creates and then she shares with me. So I'm with you, Julie. I think you need to share that one, or maybe the next workshop that we do, we should go in and build that one because that's fantastic. All righty. Well, we are right at the top of the hour. Emily, as always, thank you so much for sharing your time, your knowledge, your screens. We love a good impromptu screen share. Everyone here, it has been recorded. We'll send that out. You can check out the recording by using the link you access the event today. We also have a couple of fun goodies for you and a couple of events coming up, particularly this one. So Wade and Brandon, our chief people officer, and Wade, he's the co-founder, CEO of Zapier, if you don't know. They'll be doing an AMA on September 17th. We'd love to have you all join us. So yeah, any last words of wisdom, encouragement, Emily?
I literally cried after the last one when somebody built an agent and then tagged me in a post about it on LinkedIn. So if you'd like to evoke emotion from me, don't be shy. I love seeing what people build after these. So please, please, please let me know if you build something. And thank you for your time today. I really do appreciate it. Feel free to reach out if you need anything. Otherwise, happy building.
Love it. Yeah, if you share it with Emily, and if you do, she'll let me know and we'll send some Zapier swag your way. I'm just determined that. All right,
Bribery.
everyone, have a great day.
Bye.